Hi everyone, my name is Sang-Hyun Lee from Flashlight Capital Partners. Today's webinar is to share an update on our campaign. And to clarify, this is not about investment advice or seeking your vote on shareholders meetings. Anytime you can use a Q&A button to submit questions. You can choose send anonymously if you want. I will answer all of them after the presentation. Today, I'd like to tell you how our campaign on KT&G started. It was 5 years ago when I first met the CEO, and I was quite impressed. I wondered, though, why did this company have such excessively low valuation? Later, I learned that there's a term called orphan stock. Investors thought it's not worth their time, other than probably year-end dividend, knowing the research, and even less interest from shareholders and the vicious circle. Since I first found this stock, the price kept coming down, and as denominator getting smaller, dividend yield was getting higher. But it was not because the company paid more dividend. Today, I want to tell you why this company has a great potential, yet trading at ultra low price. I'll also share a few potential responses that KT&G management team may make. We don't, at this point in time, we don't have much confidence in the current board of directors of KT&G. We will make a request for more transparent communication. Later, I will share some questions you may want to ask the CEO. I believe asking these questions will be very helpful to prevent the past 7 years of stock decline from being repeated. On November 14, the company announced the third quarter result. Frankly, nothing very new here, just another quarter of slow growth. What intrigued me, though, was the followings. First, cash keeps piling up. Now it's 4.6 trillion won from 4.2 at the end of last year. Second, KT&G maintained a high market share in combustible and grew its market share in H&B. Third, H&B is now almost a fifth of Korean tobacco industry. There's one loud silence here, overseas H&B. Although KT&G brags they penetrated over 30 countries, but they never talk about the financials. More about this later. On our announcement day, October 26, thankfully there were over 95 media coverages in Korea, and some of them said we can help eliminate a Korea discount. We were also very happy to read online comments by retail investors. Many showed lots of interest in quarterly dividend, triple share buyback, treasury shares cancellation, and ginseng spinoff. It was really fascinating to see some of the online debates. For example, on what is and what is not ginseng spinoff. I would like to genuinely thank everyone for their warm support. Back to KT&G. As you know, the company underperformed its peers on many fronts. On your left, you can see revenue growth. Well, that's low. EBITDA growth, very low. And distribution to shareholders, very disappointing. As of August, that's before our announcement, the stock was trading at negative EV because market cap was smaller than the sum of cash and its subsidiaries. I was shocked because KT&G is one of top 30 Kospi companies. If tobacco business can be valued in line with its global peers, that is 12 times EBITDA, I believe stock price can actually double to roughly 180,000 won per share. So the discount is about 50%. And the discount has widened over the past 7 years since Mr. Bag took office as CEO. This 7 years is a long enough time to make some people give in to defeatism like KT&G is hopeless or KT&G is a boring stock. I understand the frustration, but I think we can find solution when we look at even longer term horizon. You see, KT&G has 140 years of history. It might be the oldest company in Korea. The first 120 years as a government agency and only 20 as a private company. The company was privatized in 2002, but most of the top executives, including the CEO, joined 30 years ago when KT&G was still a government agency. KT&G got a wake-up call in 2006 when Carl Icahn ran a campaign and the stock price went up. The current price is the same level as 2007 and 8, despite the 15 years of growth so far, hence lost 15 years. Let us go back to the past 7 years during which Mr. Beck was a CEO. During the past 7 years, the stock price went down, but the compensation of the board directors, especially the CEO, went up. It is inverse correlation. KT&G looks as if it's still run like a government agency. No matter what happens to the stock price, management team can have a very good sleep.
So KT&G is a solid company, but stock prices are lower than they were 15 years ago, back in 2007. Why?
The root cause is the lack of governance. No board director owns meaningful number of shares. CEO himself owns worth below $20,000, less than a typical retail investor in Korea. When the stock price goes down, the CEO doesn't feel any pain. When it goes up, he doesn't feel good either. This typical government-like compensation is, I think, the core reason of the lost 15 years. We need to break the long history of government-like culture and incentivize the management team. And also the company needs board members with shareholder perspectives. But are board of directors working hard for the shareholders? I do have concern on their independence. Last year, the board renominated the CEO, Mr. Beck, for his third term. It was super efficient decision making. The whole process took only 11 working days. Think about it. How many days does it take you to just identify candidates, let alone interview them? Also, when they decided the CEO compensation last year, although the evaluation criteria included stock price, which tanked, the board decided on an increase. Let me share one more peculiar thing about KT&G's board of directors. We started communication with the management team as early as April this year, and this June we asked for a meeting with the board, and we asked the management team to introduce us to the board, but the management team rejected. So on October 26th, we sent a letter directly to the board addressing the chairman and the other 7 members, asking for a meeting so we can explain in detail. Then we didn't hear anything from the board yet, but we heard from the management team that they, instead of us, reported to the board about our proposals. So maybe the board thought the management team can give them a better explanation of 5 proposals than us. Our 5 proposals were H&B Global Roadmap, ginseng spinoff, selling non-core businesses including real estate, plan on excess cash, and ESG, the governance reform. I recommend you to watch the video and come to your own judgment. I'm trying to imagine what kind of counter-arguments KT&G can make against our overall campaign. One example can be, actually, we talked to a lot of shareholders, and some shareholders told us that we are doing a very good job, they're very happy, we don't have to do anything. To this type of response, I would say, who do you mean by some shareholders? Why don't we put it on a vote? Another one can be, come on, KT&G stock was a star performer this year or some other time in the past from X to now, during which we can seem like we outperformed others. We are all familiar with a chart that looks like this. Of course, you can always find that magical period, but let's not fool ourselves. KT&G has a negative EV and it's the same price as 15 years ago. They can also say KT&G's PER doesn't look that disastrous, it's 11. Well, PER is ill-suited here as 50% of P, the market cap, is the value of cash and other cashable assets. When the capital structure of a company is that skewed, EV/EBITDA is a better metrics. Our first proposal is about H&B.
KT&G didn't invent H&B, but they've got a fantastic product that is now #1 in Korea. Lil, which has a real shot at challenging Philip Morris's IQOS. That is, if they stop relying on its competitor for global sales. With this in mind, my first request is a clear roadmap to grow Lil into a global brand.
We suggested that KT&G expand H&B business globally on their own and expedite the transition from combustible cigarette to H&B by committing 50% of the revenue target. Recently, KT&G said in one of its new product launches that it would do both, and also quickly added that it was actually their own idea. Well, that's great. Two questions remain. First, how do you plan to achieve that 50% of revenue from H&B? Second, how much is KT&G making from H&B export? KT&G does not disclose its H&B numbers, domestic or overseas, saying it's because of the confidentiality with Philip Morris. But really? I tried to triangulate the numbers from audit reports and IR reports, but couldn't get to any sensible results. H&B export is not just a tiny part of their business. It's a very important, a huge growth driver for KT&G that all shareholders need to know. KT&G should report these KPIs to its shareholders. So if the management team is against our suggestion on H&B, they can say something like, some shareholders like us to continue relying on Philip Morris. Yes, it's the same story. I won't repeat it here. KT&G keeps saying, oh, our H&B numbers are bound by confidentiality. I really can't shake off this impression that they are overselling this confidentiality clause. Why would Philip Morris stop KT&G from reporting the total revenue and profit, both sticks and devices, to its shareholders? Our next proposal is about ginseng spinoff, or what we call free ginseng.
Making a global product is not easy. Zero surprise there. In 2021, less than 20% of KT&G's ginseng revenue was from exports. In China, its biggest export market, sales are unimpressive. Done under an overseeing tobacco company that doesn't give ginseng enough support.
For those of you who don't know much about KT&G's ginseng subsidiary, ginseng is a fast-growing business. Before COVID, it grew 12% CAGR for 5 years. 12%. It has over 70% market share in Korea, but its export has been limited.
So I suggest KGC split from KT&G as a listed entity, which for its market position and track record is worth more than 4 trillion Korean won, and all its shares be distributed to the current KT&G shareholders for free.
To clarify, this is a spin-off and not IPO. No cash transaction here. The shares of NewCo will be distributed to the current KT&G shareholders. I was shocked to find that some research analysts already spoke to hundreds of shareholders thinking we want an IPO. So I felt I really need to clarify here today. It's not IPO, but a spin-off. Ginseng is 100% owned subsidiary of KT&G. So when KT&G is split into two, the NewCo, a listed company, will own 100% of KGC. The two companies, NewCo and KGC, can be merged soon after. Many reasons why we are proposing ginseng spin-off. First of all, tobacco and ginseng are very different. I heard that in the past, one KT&G building in Korea displayed a slogan that can be translated to something like, our ginseng cures tobacco damage. I really think it's a wrong idea to put the two in the same group. There's only one reason why anyone may be against it. Spin-off will result in a smaller kingdom for the management team. But I hope they don't see it that way. Spin-off, or a horizontal spin-off, just to be clear, is relatively straightforward. I understand it's a tax-free event and it's well precedented. One exactly the same case is SK Telecom, the largest telco in Korea, last year. They got 99% of shareholders' approval. So on ginseng spin-off, they can say, again, some shareholders actually want ginseng to be on the tobacco. It's the same story. I would say, Let's put it on a shareholders vote during AGM. They can say KT&G stock will implode without KGC, Korea Ginseng Company, as without ginseng, KT&G will become a pure tobacco, a sinful stock. I think it's quite the contrary. First of all, so Philip Morris is undervalued compared to KT&G? KGC, the ginseng company, has been ignored and undervalued because it was on tobacco, and it will get re-rating once it's separate from tobacco because more institutions can invest in this ginseng company without the burden of going through a tobacco company. The last one that I can think of is that KGC can prosper only under the CEO Back's leadership. If they say that, my response will be, excuse me? Our next proposal is about focus.
I have a soccer player friend who's chasing many dreams on top of his career. Baseball player, violinist, singer, cook. He's even a real estate agent. Which begs the question, where does he find the time to practice soccer? KT&G has a lot of subsidiaries in addition to its core business, tobacco, with the largest being ginseng. The company is also developing their prime location sites into hotels and residentials. Doesn't it sound crazy to have a global consumer brand developing real estate? With a total of 9 non-core businesses running, it's no surprise that they're not performing well.
Not everyone knows KT&G does real estate development business. Actually, KT&G owns a hotel right in front of Namdaemun, the iconic tourist spot in Seoul. But I don't know anybody who stayed there. KT&G made some money from real estate business recently, but frankly, everybody made money from real estate in the past few years. Our proposal number 4 is about 6 trillion won.
We have 2 requests. First, KT&G should pay quarterly dividends, not annually. Second, we want the company's plan for its 6 trillion won in cashable assets, either invest or a share buyback. I am perfectly fine either way, as long as there's a good rationale behind it. Just please, please, don't say we decided to do nothing.
When we say 6 trillion won, roughly 4 trillion is cash and 2 is mainly real estate investment. Many shareholders ask me, what do you mean by 4 trillion won? I don't see that on Bloomberg. Well, you're right, it's different from Bloomberg. You can actually find it under 8 different accounts in the balance sheet. So it's 4.2 trillion, not 2.6. Investment real estate is under the footnote and it's another 2.2 trillion won. That 4.2 trillion was accumulated over the past 15 years. Distribution has this U shape. As you can see, the green bars are the distribution to the shareholders. And as a result, cash is piling up. You can see 2 bubbles here, one on the left, orange, and the blue on the right. There are 2 shareholder distribution announced in 2006 and 2021. As you can see here, the number has come down. So after 15 years of starvation, the shareholders are getting less than before. Should we cry tears of joy? What they announced last and this year is only about using the future cash flow, and it will not touch the excess cash because they will distribute 900 billion won a year when they have 1 trillion won of cash flow every year. My question is, what's the rationale for huddling excess cash? After all, KT&G is not a bank. Also, tobacco is no semiconductor. In our projection, even after KT&G triples distribution the next 3 years, they can continue investing for the future and still stay net cash. Not that net cash is great. KT&G is the only one with net cash among global top 5 tobacco players. Global peers have 2 to 3 times of net debt to EBITDA. I once asked CEO, do you really think global companies like Philip Morris are incompetent or immoral that they have net debt and distribute to shareholders? Here, I can think of a lot of variations of let's do nothing. Again, they can say some shareholders say we should do nothing, or they can say we need to balance between short-term and long-term shareholders. Well, how do you define short-term and long-term shareholders? And how does keeping cash at banks help any shareholders, short or long-term? Then maybe they can say, oh, if cash sleeping at banks is a problem, why don't I start asset management business? Well, I will upload this on our website so that you can read later. Governance is a key theme of our campaign, and we believe it's the cornerstone of ESG.
Flashlight has a different approach. We see great potential for KT&G to become the #1 ESG world champion. The way there? Start with G. First, we can shape KT&G into a company with real owners through seats on the board of directors. This way, we can ensure not only that the CEO is perfect for the job, but also that there are strong incentives for them to bring wins to the team.
Our requests in governance are A, board members with shareholder perspectives, and B, stock option for the management team. And KT&G can say, again, some shareholders like us and they say we shouldn't do anything. They can also say, thanks, but no thanks, we don't need stock option. And my response will be, oh yes, you do. They can say, KT&G got a high ESG rating on some sophisticated reports and therefore they're fine. What do you think? I think governance is a simple principle. It means aligned interests between shareholders and the management team. If there's no such alignment, no matter how many subcommittees there are under the board of directors, how many hundreds of pages of reports you have, you will get 0 score on the governance. As simple as that. We prepared a summary of potential responses from KT&G. You can find it on our website and check later if any of these are indeed used by KT&G. We also have listed up 10 questions we want to ask the CEO. Please take a look, and if you agree that these are good questions, can you call or email KT&G and seek answers to these? I suggest you directly ask the CEO himself, as otherwise you will probably not get any answers. What matters here is a signal you send to the company that you're very keen to hear the answers. We'll also share an email template on our website. Remember, if you stay silent, management team will count you as the voice of approval for KT&G doing nothing. To recap, we sent a letter to the board, but we haven't heard any response from them. Instead, it's the management team that's talking. The board of directors seems to be missing here. The company also once said, we will hear opinion from diverse shareholders. And we say, wait, who are the diverse shareholders and how do you calibrate, weigh all different opinions? As we saw from the recent board decision makings, we do not want it to be decisions made behind the closed doors. So we request A, meeting with the board of directors as soon as possible, and B, open debate with the CEO. We don't have any rules here, as long as the debate will be available for all shareholders. There are 3 ways we can help KT&G today. First, we will request more transparent communication with the company in the form of in-person meeting with the board, as well as an open debate with the CEO. You can also help. You can send emails and ask 10 questions to CEO, and also see if the company is using any of these counter-arguments we discussed today. I will upload the checklist on our website. So I'll answer some of the questions that came in. Wow, thanks a lot for so many questions. The first question is, what's your view on the CEO? Beck, right? Mr. Beck, that's his name. Yeah, I met him actually quite a few times from 5 years ago, and heard a lot from him. I think he's a gentleman with a genuinely good heart. He told me a lot of things about the way he sees the shareholders, and a lot of things. Maybe I shouldn't tell you everything about it, but
I really was impressed about the way he thinks about the shareholders. And yeah, so I mean, it was great. But the way I see the company is that the company, for any companies, if they want to succeed, they have to have two things. One is the great management team, and the other is an incentive that actually makes the management team work very hard. For KT&G's case, instead of really going deep about their capability or competence, which I really don't have much knowledge of, I would like to point out the more serious issue of the two is actually the latter, this lack of incentive system. As I told you, this current incentive system does not really lead the management team to work hard for the stock price. So frankly, if any of us on this call today were in the same issues, we actually could have done the same. So I really want to focus on getting this incentive part right. In other words, what's been the nature of your interactions with KT&G management team was what management told you. I think it's a similar thing. It was a very cordial interaction. That would be the nature of interaction. I not only met the CEO, but other few top lieutenants in Korea and Singapore. They're very nice gentlemen. What did they tell me? We discussed, I mean, you can actually find this on my website. I had the 2-hour presentation at the headquarters building in May, and then the presentation material is actually available on our website. I told them everything about our 5 suggestions, and they showed a lot of interest, and actually they showed a lot of positive attitude on many of those. But I would say one thing that kind of made me feel very happy in the beginning, but maybe not very so, in the end, is that they said that's, for example, I'm not going to talk about which one that they talked about, but they said, you're right, we'll do something someday. So I felt, wow, that's great. But then again, I thought, wait a minute, well, what do you mean by doing something someday? That can mean a lot of things, or frankly, that can mean nothing too, right? So I really believe that they meant it, but I really am still, waiting for the positive response from them. Is a cash deposit in escrow really distributable cash? That one, I have some opinion, but I think I strongly suggest you ask the company as well. There is this escrow cash, which I believe is a result of their US business. And when I first, saw the number, I couldn't believe my eyes, because again, I was running the numbers to get to the profitability. And please ask the company. It was something like when they sell cigarettes in US, they make some tiny profit, and almost all the profit was, or maybe even more was locked for 20 years, and it was used to buy the treasury bill or something. So I couldn't really believe it. So I asked the company, why are you doing this business? It doesn't make any sense in cash flow. And also, how secure is this cash? And then they said, don't worry, it's really cash. It's very secure. You don't have to worry about it. So I thought, okay, well, I'll just, take it as you just said. So maybe it's very secure. And if you believe this is such a secure asset, then I will treat it as, a real cash. Very long question. KT&G has created one of the world's leading heat not burn products, grew ginseng. Is it fair to criticize management team for its operating performance? Oh yeah, well, absolutely not. I am not criticizing the management team for their operation performance. I don't want to criticize anyone, but I am saying I am very deeply unhappy, and rightfully so, about the stock price decline over the past 7 years, which is the same as 15 years. So I didn't say I criticized management team for the operation performance. By the way, you may remember I was saying their H&D is super fantastic product. And then they should try to sell it overseas because they have such a great product. Why not? Well, I'm not criticizing it, but I'm just questioning that if you have such a great product, why don't you sell it overseas on yourself? And also the ginseng as well. Yeah, ginseng. Yeah, that's right. 12% CAGR for 5 consecutive years before COVID. That is awesome. I'm just saying, well, this overseas export business has been very limited. The largest export market is China, and then they were actually making loss. I mean, it's incredible that you can make loss in China, given that we have such a strong brand. I mean, most of the tourists, foreign friends I know, they come to Korea and they want to actually buy ginseng as a souvenir. With this high awareness, how can you lose money? Did you know that KGC, the ginseng company, advertising spending is something like 150 billion won, 150 billion. That's something like more than $100 million a year. In comparison, Hyundai Motor is spending about 300 billion won, right? The whole Hyundai Motor advertised 300 and ginseng company 150. When you spend that much advertising, I thought, you could do a little bit better, right? So I'm just questioning, why are you not globalizing ginseng business? Is it because you keep sending this tobacco executives the ginseng company? Can you imagine if you were the KGC employee, one day you see this new gentleman coming and say, hey, I'm your new CEO. And then he would say, I used to be the sales, the district head of like South Seoul district head of tobacco sales. I'm going to help globalize ginseng. Would you believe it? And then after that, maybe a few years, he leaves. And then another guy comes and says, hey, I'm the new boss again. But you know what? I used to cover the Western part of Seoul. I used to be the sales head. I was selling tobacco to convenience store. This time, let me help you become a global company. It doesn't sound very convincing. So, rather than criticizing anyone, I'm just merely saying there seem to be a lot of things you can do once you have a good management team at KGC. But again, I think KGC is a fantastic company. Oh, so yeah, what was the CEO's response when I asked him, his view on the Philip Morris, distribution? Yeah, I indeed asked him. So just to recap, I said, do you really think Philip Morris is immoral or incompetent that they have debt and distributing to the shareholders? I think I can tell you, Mr. Bag was actually nodding, and he was like, he wasn't really saying no. He didn't give me direct answers, but so he said he is aware of that, and he will do something someday. So yeah, that's what happened. Oh, what would you do if no response? Oh, you mean what would I do if the company is not really responding well? Yeah, first of all, I'm trying to give the management team the benefit of the doubt because I deeply believe that they are very good people. I mean, if you meet them, they are very sensible and rational people. Again, they have good hearts. So I am still hoping that they will come back to me with positive response. But just in case, what if not, right? Our management, our investment principle, the Flashlight Capital Partners, we have three, and one of the three is management-friendly approach. With what that means is we will always prioritize the opportunity to build a good relationship with the management team. So we believe in carrots, not sticks. But to be clear, doesn't mean that we are working for the management team. We are the shareholders. We are the owner, just like you. So if I do conclude that the current management team is not really helping the company in the right direction, or they're ruining the company's future, of course, then I have to think about their alternatives. Did management team outright decline your proposals, or did they just not respond to them? Oh, so far, no, they did not decline my proposal. After October 26th, I guess, right? That's what you're asking. They have not made meaningful response yet. I can think of a few comments on the letter. They were saying they would review our proposals carefully. I think that was the wording, which is it's in Korean. And then during the IR call, they said they will listen to diverse shareholder opinions. But other than that, they didn't actually say anything very clearly. The reason I came up with this summary of potential counter arguments is, I mean, just in case, I mean, I believe companies working very hard to, analyze, with a lot of great advisors like Goldman Sachs and Kim-Sang, of whom I think a lot of them are on the call today. But they will come up with a very rational response. And I'm just thinking, I hope they will not make these counter arguments, but what if? So, I mean, you can just take a look later when you have time. Yeah. Another one. Yeah. Are you a short-term or long-term? Well, I said in my presentation, the companies, I believe, is worth 180,000 won per share. That should be actually the normalized price right now. I didn't talk about it today, but actually, if you come to our website, there's another the longer deck that says actually the stock price can actually become 5x in the next 5 years because, as you may know, H&B is such a great business. It's growing fast, and it's in many ways, many reasons, it's a great business. And also ginseng, once you have the right management team, has a great potential to become a global brand. So if these are executed, it can actually become 5 times collectively tobacco and ginseng. So if I, depending on the response of the management team, if I see, very convincing evidence that the management team is actually executing that well, or if we find that there is this management team who would do it, and then, then of course I would love to stay on and enjoy the upside. All right. Okay. Thanks a lot for your questions. So that's it. So thanks a lot for your time, and we'll see you again. Have a nice day.